Simar Nature Reserve, which is where we are today, and also Adira Nature Reserve, were both saved from different projects which would have ruined the sites by BirdLife Malta. The then Malta Ornithological Society had submitted plans to the government to transform these two areas into the first nature reserves for the Maltese islands. It therefore comes as no surprise that the sites have been entrusted to BirdLife Malta for their management. BirdLife Malta manages the site. The management is done through a work plan. So the personnel on site are doing work according to the work plan which would have been devised for the 5 years, for the upcoming 5 years. So in the nature reserves, it is always nature which gets priority over people, basically. Whilst we obviously open for the people, in fact the nature reserves are open for the months from September up to May of each year. In the mornings we see school children, and in the afternoons and weekends we are open to the public. Having said that, some parts of the reserves do remain out of bounds for people. Even within the nature reserve, some parts of the nature reserves are often kept closed for the public. Even though there is the nature trail here which passes all around the reserve, some areas are often kept off limits so that we do not disturb breeding birds. In spring, starting as early as March, basically we have species breeding here like the Sardinian warbler, which we can hear calling in the background. And in this vegetation here, purposely prepared and planted by the management team years ago, there is a Sardinian warbler nest. Obviously you can imagine that a constant flow of people would be of detriment and disturbance to the species. So, as we said, nature takes precedent in a nature reserve, and therefore we keep the area closed off so that nature can take its course. The summer months are the 3 months of the year in which the nature reserves are kept closed. This is because most of the manual work is done in the 3 summer months.
Part of our work is to remove alien trees or alien shrubs. These alien trees are shrubs or trees or vegetation that is not native of the Maltese islands. So part of our work is we have to remove these alien trees. This particular alien tree which we're removing is the tea tree. In Maltese it's called oasis. It's an invasive tree. It adapts to the sunny conditions. It doesn't need a lot of water, and it grows very profusely. It is obviously it grows over other vegetation, so we have to remove it to allow the native vegetation to grow back. So we have to cut it down completely. This is a plant that has been introduced in some parts of the Maltese islands. It produces fruit, which birds obviously will eat and will carry the seed all over. And we have a bit of a problem at Simar particularly, where it is invading certain areas of the wetland. What you're seeing here is shorelines that are cleared. These shorelines, we clear them. We have to remove some of the vegetation. Some of the vegetation that grows on here, some of them are a bit of invasive, whilst others are not so invasive. So some plants like this in California, this is quite rare. You don't find it growing in other places. This is typical habitat. So if you have the reeds, this is the Phragmites growing. Together, they are competing from the same area. So we remove some of the Phragmites, so we allow this to grow in a wider area. Important to note that what vegetation we remove, we relocate it. So we're not removing the plant altogether. We're removing it from here and then relocating in other areas where we don't have this particular plant.
A very important part of the work at the nature reserves BirdLife Malta manages revolves around research. Research about practically everything, all flora and fauna of the reserve. Let's start with the birds, which are the most important. One of the daily jobs that the managing warden has on site is to record the birds present at the nature reserve on the particular day. This is very important because we get to know how long the birds stay at the reserve, which therefore means what food they're finding, what different species visit the Maltese island. Another particular branch of research is bird ringing, which during migration and breeding season is carried out as regularly as possible. This research, which is carried out by licensed BirdLife Malta bird ringers, has given us some very interesting data, as can be seen on this map, whereby all these species, which are all migratory species, have been found in different countries, having been ringed at Simar Nature Reserve in Malta. So you can see that birds as small as the wood warbler, for example, a bird which weighs 11 to 12 grams, can make some fascinating journeys up to the northern countries like Norway, Sweden, Poland,